Which fictional villains were right? Diego and the other saber-toothed tiger thingies from Ice Age. Their only malfeasance was eating meat. They are carnivores. What's wrong with that? Because, baby? True. But still it's either that or die. And in this world they are all sentient, so eventually he's going to have to eat something with emotions that can think and communicate. Ozymandias in Watchmen. In the context of that story, nuclear war wasn't just a possibility. It was an inevitability. So he sacrificed 3 million New Yorkers to save billions. Except he didn't really. He just delayed the inevitable. Dr. Manhattan was correct when he told him, nothing ever ends. The fact is, he couldn't even keep his own team on the same message. How could he ever ensure all of humanity does? It will only be a matter of time before mankind is back at each other's throats. Only now they are even more militarized after preparing to defend against the psychic squid. Adrian was too proud and arrogant to see that. Another point is a little more Doyleist, but there is the parallel between him and the Black Freighter. The Black Freighter was never going to attack Davidstown, but the castaway, in his paranoia, believed it to be true. In fact, he believed it to be fait accompli and kills his own wife, believing her to be a pirate. Mora included that for a reason, and many people overlook its importance. I get what you're saying, but what was Adrian to do? If he did nothing, then that nuclear holocaust comes sooner. Sure, he might be only delayed it. Bet he did delay it. That's an achievement greater than I get what you're saying. But what was Adrian to do? Anything else? There's more than one possible plan. Now you're getting into some tangled weeds. The smartest man on Earth says that was the best plan. And you're saying you know better? I mean, that's the problem with believing he's that smart based on author say-so. Killmonger from Black Panther. His methods were too extreme to be tolerable. But looking away when you can help is also a crime. Very true. And Black Panther realized Killmonger was right, so he started those Wakandan outreach centers to help people. Which is one of the reasons why Black Panther was such a great movie. Tom from Tom and Jerry. He's not villain. He's victim, monsieur. Magneto was just protecting the mutants and Doctor Doom just wanted to simply rule the world. I mean, what's the bad thing about wanting to rule the world? Lol. Doom, through his sorcery talents, had looked into the future and saw the Earth as a blasted wasteland. So he kept looking. Why did this happen? How do I stop this? Quote, he watched through 14,000 or so futures and the only one where Earth did not end up a blasted wasteland was the one where he ruled it. With that in mind, everything he does to take over the world makes perfect sense. I see that shit-ass Magnet Man every time on these threads, but he wasn't right. He was a fucking Reich. He wanted to stop a genocide with another genocide. Fuck that asshole man. Many non-2D villains are usually right. Their plan just lacks empathy. Syndrome. Edit for clarity. I'm not excusing his actions as a villain. I'm saying he's right that the heroes people have looked up to are assholes and one needs to work for their own futures. When everybody's special, then nobody is. Maybe in some part of his ideology. But I don't think releasing a very dangerous killer robot at the middle of a major city in order to appear as a savior by essentially cheating is anything near right. If what he truly wanted was to sell artificial superpowers to everyone, he could just sell them, rather than keeping all its inventions secret and designing very dangerous anti-superhero weapons. His true objectives are just 1. Vengeance. 2. Resolving his complex of inferiority by cheating his way up to the rank of famous superhero. For all the idiots that said Thanos, you're wrong. There is a problem, but killing half isn't a solution. The population of Earth would be back to last century and we would regrow far faster than before. Because of the infrastructure in place. I don't know about aliens, but probably the same because they would have had to evolve to grow fast as well on their respective homes. Make infinite resources or limit the fertility of people. Killing half of all life just kicks the can down the road. And the ash would have been a waste of resources. Edit. Spelling. Not to mention all the suicides from people who lost everybody they loved, people who keep nuclear power plants from destroying whole cities. Hitler. He was far right. God damn it, Barb. I did not see that coming. I'm more perturbed by your suggestion he was fictional. Squidward. Squidward's not even a villain, he's just a true neutral jerkass. Darth Maul. Clone Wars Rebels. I may have rolled my eyes into the back of my head when I found out he survived. But damned if they didn't use the opportunity to tell a great story. The final duel with Obi-Wan was just beautiful. So pissed they never found a way to bring Mace Windu back, like Palpatine Monowall. But no Windu. Through the window! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! The guy from The Rock was pretty spot on, fucked up methods and probably should have vetted out his helpers better. But he had a point. Stefan Sensky from Halo. His daughter was stolen from him by the government for a military program, and replaced with a clone that had a lifespan of barely 3 weeks. He watched it die thinking it was his own daughter, and his wife committed suicide shortly afterwards. He eventually figured out what was going on, but no authority or justice agency would help him because they thought he was nuts. He managed to reach out to other families who had similar experiences of children vanishing and then reappearing sickly and different, and with these people he eventually slid into a career of illegal arms trade in the hopes that one day he would become a big enough threat, or buy himself a big enough gun where he could then bargain with the government for information about what really happened to his daughter. Oni in Halo is really shady and fucked up. Roy Batty in Blade Runner. He just wanted a longer life for him and his friends, but humans were just trying to kill them, so they fought back. The film could easily have been about him instead of Deckard, in which case he'd be a tragic hero and Deckard the villain. I think a full-length Blade Runner universe movie from Roy Batty's perspective would be incredible. The Fireflies from The Last of Us. They showed us Ellie's head x-ray. The fungus was all over her head and spinal column. There is no way they couldn't get a good tissue sample without resorting to the extremes. I looked through as many in-game clues as possible, and I can't find justification for that path specifically. I'm just not buying this was the only option. Make me spend a year on a cross-country expedition to point a gun at my head and tell me to fuck off. Tell me more how much you love lead in your organs. Edit. This still bugs me because I know they had to have a competent writing staff. And immunology is something they would have to look at if they're talking about inventing a vaccine. Joel's supposition is mostly correct. They could have harvested antibodies from Ellie's blood and tested those on infected, exposed individuals. They wouldn't even need a sample of the failed fungus, necessarily. But again, even if they needed living fungus, killing Ellie would definitely be a huge problem because no one else has ever survived a bite. Now your only lead is fucking dead. What happens if you fucked up on storing those precious tissue samples? Too many points of failure to have that much confidence that she needed to die. Hell, if it was, don't tell Joel she survived. Idiots. Seriously, no reason at all to go with, well, she needs to die, because it's better than failing to draw blood from her or clip tissue from a more minor surgery. Wasn't there evidence that there wasn't even close to a guarantee that it would have worked in? They had tried this many times before? Vader. The Rebel Alliance was so incompetent that decades later they could not get their ship together and defeat the First Order, which was led by some of the most inept people in movie history. That is what happens when you take gender study teachers and turn them into an admirals. He should have brought order to the galaxy by ruling with his son. I guess genocide and mass slaughter are just the price of admission. The book Bloodline paints an even worse picture of the New Republic. They were so afraid of a new Palpatine that the New Republic did not have one single leader. It was just a Senate with no one in charge of it. So, nothing got done. I know why the First Order came to power. The existing government was so fixated on overthrowing the legitimate government that they had no actual plans on how to govern once they got the power. Hell, the New Republic even knew about the First Order's military build-up and did nothing. Which is why the Resistance became a thing. The novels paint the Resistance as not the New Republic military, but rather a separate military fighting on behalf of the New Republic. Clearance Darby from law-abiding citizen. The system is broken and the only way to fix it is by bringing it all down. Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5. Kinda, and the way he was doing it wasn't the best. That's why he's the villain. The best villains do bad things with good intentions. Spoilers ahead. I don't get why he wanted you to kill High Monsieur, yeah? He killed people. But if it weren't for Deputy Judge, he'd saved more people than killed. Spoiler. If the game didn't end in a nuclear apocalypse, then absolutely. He forcefully overtook a state and murdered a lot of people. With the game ending the way it did, definitely not. He saved numerous people. As it stands, his standing of humanity hinges on whether or not a nuclear apocalypse actually happens. Joker from TDK was ultimately misguided and delusional about his understanding of human nature. Joker from Joker was simply a mentally ill person. I hate it when people champion this character as some sort of prophet. Sure, any negative character can provide some insight into human nature, but thinking they were on the right track is firmly edgelord territory. Oh come on man, why so serious? Let's put a smile on that face. Moderna and Obito. I wish that happened in the real world and they succeeded. Napoleoning War and Peace. Russia was trash and common folks were abused by the aristocracy. They would tremendously benefit from reforms. But Napoleon reinstituted slavery in the French colonies because it was profitable. Who's to say he would reform Russia? I think reform would very much have been on the table in an outright conquest scenario. Though even then, that isn't necessarily what he was pushing for, considering he did it elsewhere. Unfortunately, the idea that black people were lesser was a popular one even in revolutionary France. So it was inevitable that any long-lasting leadership would reinstate it. A lot of villains in animated shows are often right, but the way they achieve their goals isn't good. Take Pain from Naruto for example. He wanted to end all war and achieve peace, but he thought the only way he could do it was to create a weapon so powerful that every time it was used it scared the living shit out of everyone to the point they didn't want to fight anymore. In my opinion, Pain was right, but he decided he needed to kill thousands just to accomplish peace. On the other hand, when a villain is evil just because he is evil and doesn't have any goals other than mindlessly killing and ruling over something, it can really make or break a series. The best shows I've ever watched had villains with noble goals, but shitty ways of getting to said goals. Sounds like real life with nukes. Unpopular opinion, the machines in the Matrix universe. I'd have asked them to top up my bank account and grabbed a whole handful of blue pills. Shere Khan from the Jungle Book. He wanted to kill Molji cause he thought he was gonna burn down the jungle. Then Molji burned down the jungle. Light Yagami. He is justice. Go back to eating your chips, you arrogant false god. Kingpin from Into the Spider-Verse. All he wanted was his family back, but he almost created interdimensional problems. He wanted to kidnap people who looked like his family, away from their actual father-husband. He could have saved a lot of trouble and just paid some really good actors. Would have given him about the same result. Tyler Durden. Darth Vader. He only turned to the dark side because he wanted to save Padme. I also wonder if he would have maintained his connection to the dark side without the Emperor pushing his buttons all the time. We may never know. Anakin turned to the dark side because Palpatine was manipulating him. Remember that whole thing about Darth Plagueis' power to save others from death, and reminding Anakin about his mother? If Windu had killed Palpatine, there wouldn't have been an Order 66 and Anakin wouldn't have been sent to Mustafar, where he ended up choking Padme. I mean, he actually turned to the dark side to protect her. There are clear examples of him headed that way before and clear reasons why he did. But yeah, the biggest reason he turned was both to protect and save her. Yes, he fully turned after he thought she was dead. But he was interested in joining the Sith if it would make sure she didn't die in the first place as well. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.